Familiarity is one of the biggest enemies of your soul. I got a lesson on this, on familiarity, a few years ago while I was on vacation in Italy. My wife and I were walking through Florence, Italy with these 1,000-year-old buildings and churches, stained glass windows, historic architecture. Tourists like us were everywhere, but there were tons of locals too, who live and work there every single day. You want to know how I could tell who was a tourist and who was a local? Whether or not someone looked up. You see, I was so enamored with the architecture and the beauty and the history around me that I was walking around super slowly, looking up all the time to take in all the sights. I was amazed and in awe of what I was seeing. But meanwhile, people would pass me by, walking quickly with their heads down. And those were the locals. You see, they'd seen this building that I was captivated by. They'd seen that building every day for years. It was familiar. It wasn't special anymore. Is there any chance that that's how you feel about God right now? That you're familiar with him? Maybe even bored? Because you have a mundane, day by day, week by week life here in Columbia. And you watch our devos, you go to church, maybe even go to small group. And you want to love Jesus, you want to grow closer to him, but it's all just so familiar. We see this in Scripture too. It's in Mark 6, and it says this. It says, Jesus left there and went to his hometown, accompanied by his disciples. And this is what all the hometown people said when Jesus came home. They say this, "Isn't this the carpenter? Isn't this Mary's son and the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? Aren't his sisters here with us?" And Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own town, among his relatives, and in his own home." And he could not do any miracles there except lay his hands on a few sick people and heal them. You see, Jesus' hometown didn't have faith in him because he was so familiar to them. They watched him grow up. They knew his parents. He was just the carpenter that made furniture for them. So they were kind of bored of him. And if we're not careful, in our day-to-day, week-by-week life here in Columbia and at the Crossing, we can start to think the same thing. It's just Jesus. Yeah, he forgives my sins. Yeah, I know he died on the cross for me. And it can become so familiar and we can become so bored. That's why we're so excited about going to Camp Awesome and Camp Rockies this year. Because camp is a time and a place where God often wrestles people out of that familiarity, out of that boredom, where he reminds us to stop living so quickly with our heads down in our day-to-day life, but instead to walk slowly, looking up at him because he's more beautiful and awe-inspiring than anything that this world has to offer. This year, a good friend of mine of over 25 years, a guy by the name of Luke Meadama, will be speaking every single night. And he's going to walk us through the questions that Jesus asks of us. In addition to that, we're going to have question and answer sessions and devotional times, breakout sessions, cabin times, and a whole lot of fun with your friends and leaders. But our biggest prayer is this, that you and I, that we would slow down and look up, because Jesus should be anything but boring and familiar to us. Maybe this is the week that God wakes us up again.
Hey guys, we here at Crossing Students hope these videos serve you well. We'll be putting out new videos each week with all kinds of content. So if you have a question about a video or maybe ideas for new videos, make sure to leave those in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks guys.